Have you ever heard of no Saudi oil policy? It is a policy to stop oil imports from OPEC countries, especially Saudi Arabia, and the possibility of reduced oil imports by United States of America. And this is how it began. Here you can see the United States of America, where the great power exists. On the other side of the world, this is Saudi Arabia, and its oil, of course. This video would like to discuss about the discourse of no Saudi oil policy under Trump's administration. We'll begin with the dynamic relation between Saudi Arabia and United States of America. The relations between both were fine since 1930s, where an oil company which is Saudi Aramco was formed. But until there was a period called oil shock in 1960s, where all countries who imported oil from Saudi experienced a price increase. It was because Saudi Arabia suspected that the United States supported the establishment of the State of Israel and supported Israel during the war against Egypt and Syria, and it triggered the anger of Saudi Arabia, which led to the embargo of oil for the United States and its allies. Then, around 1974, U.S. Secretary managed to conduct diplomacy in order to reduce the Arab-Israeli war by carrying out a ceasefire policy between Israel and Syria, and it marked the end of oil embargo carried out by Saudi Arabia against the U.S. and allies.
The next, the rise of Trump presidential administration. The current U.S. President, Donald Trump, often caused controversy through the argument he issued. Even he had begun to issue controversial statements during the past presidential election campaign. But in this campaign, Trump's success in uniting the nationalists and non-interventionists, this would give rise to the possibility that Trump's foreign policy was largely direct at interventionists. And the next, discourse on no Saudi oil policy. One statement controversy of Trump during the campaign period was when he said that the U.S. is currently raising the budget on unnecessary sectors, such as the military sectors, and it's leading to financial and economic crisis. So, Trump changing the focus of U.S. goals from the dominant financial and economic import into the export and manufacturing economy. So far, oil imports from OPEC countries, especially Saudi Arabia, have greatly reduced U.S. foreign exchange. So, this where no Saudi oil policy discourse emerged in the era of President Trump's administration.
Two questions then arise. The first is, why United States under Trump proposed no Saudi oil policy? And the second would be, how Trump's administration decided to conduct no Saudi oil policy while United States still depended on Saudi's oil. And to answer those two questions, we start from a little throwback to when global war on terror emerged. It is a movement triggered by the 43rd President of the United States of America, George Bush. This movement aimed to fight terrorism that occurred after the collapse of World Trade Center buildings and the Pentagon due to terrorist group attacks on September 11, 2001. Right after the incident, a lot of speculations emerged regarding the bilateral relations between both the United States and Saudi Arabia. Speculation stated that the relations between both experienced a less harmonious relationship, but the fact is, there seemed no significant influence in relations. Well, it did affect Saudi Arabia as accused of being a terrorist state, but in the era of President Barack Obama's administration, the US again brought the relations back. However, after the election of 45th President from Republican Party on November 9, 2016, Donald Trump, who is famous for his Islamophobia, created a new question marks for two countries regarding the prospect for bilateral relations between United States and Saudi during his presidency.
Now we proceed to discuss about the dilemma of US and its relation with Saudi Arabia under Trump's administration in issuing no Saudi oil policy. So, the existence of shale oil owned by the US reduces its dependence on oil imports from other countries, especially from Saudi Arabia. This condition can threaten the sustainability of Saudi Arabia in becoming a superpower country in terms of energy and oil. This can be seen from the efforts made by Saudi Arabia, such as flooding the US oil market with their product, so that it is hoped that the shale oil producer companies will go bankrupt. In contrast, the US still needs to import 7 million barrels of oil to meet its domestic needs, especially for the oil refineries. The majority of oil refineries require a combination of light and heavy crude oil to operate efficiently and effectively, while US domestic shale oil production is on average light, while imported crude oil mainly from Saudi Arabia is heavier and is needed for mixing processes in oil refineries. Only by importing oil from Saudi Arabia is the US able to meet domestic demands for crude oil. And it is even quite impossible for the US to meet its domestic demand if Trump imposes a no Saudi oil policy, even if the USA can still import crude oil from Iraq, Russia, Venezuela, or other countries.
Now we are talking about the challenges and risks for US in applying its foreign policy of no Saudi oil policy.
There are challenges and other risks for Trump if he still wants to implement his no Saudi oil policy and other foreign policy. These challenges and risks come from Middle East countries. This risk also does not only affect the US and Saudi Arabia, but also allies of the two countries. Not only the country will reject the draft Trump policy, but also it is estimated that there will be oil companies and interest groups that will refuse. Then a surprising statement was issued by the ISIS. They claimed that they were the perpetrators of the events of the attacks that occurred in the territory of Saudi Arabia. Conditions like this will also worsen if Trump fails to reaffirm US policy to defend the Gulf country against these terrorism attacks. Besides being at risk of physical terrorism attack, foreign policy issued by Trump presidential government are also at risk of cyber terror. As a result of this terror attack, the US government plans to check back and repair all US security and defense systems, both physically and non-physically.
And regarding the prospects for bilateral relations and cooperation between the United States and Saudi Arabia in the future,
some sector of cooperation will be increased. This cooperation will focus more on the security and defense sector. The United States has promised to help Saudi Arabia compete with Iranian hegemony in the Middle East region. The US will also improve coordination in dealing with threats posed by counterterrorism, rebellion, hardline extremist Islam, ethnic or sectarian extremism, and instability of conditions in Syria and Iraq. The emergence of Kurdish ethnic issues in several countries in the Middle East, especially Iran, is also one of the main factors for cooperation between the US and Saudi Arabia in the future.
jumping to the conclusion,
bilateral relations between the US and Saudi Arabia have been closely intertwined for a long time, but did not always go harmoniously. Many were favorite events that have elevated international political contestation. When the presidential transition period in the US, all of the presidential candidates at that time, Donald Trump issued a somewhat statement, namely, he promised to reduce or not even import oil at all from Saudi Arabia. And Trump was elected President of the United States. He and his line ministry began implementing the policy even though it was only a short term. This was due to the positive response from Saudi Arabia, which saw U.S. policy as a turning point for renegotiation and re-establishing relations between Saudi Arabia and the U.S.